Hello all, my name is Amlan Samanta. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In my last video, I had discussed some interview questions on Autoencoder. And sorry for not uploading a new video on interview questions regarding Autoencoder yesterday because I was not well, I was not feeling well. But today I am a little bit better, so I have come up with some more interview questions. In this whiteboard you can see some questions I have already written. But the first two questions I will not discuss because you can find the answers of those two questions in my last three videos. So I will start from question number 3. So let's see the answer, how to answer these three questions in a proper manner to the interviewer. So question number 3, what is bottleneck in AE? Now if you think about the architecture of autoencoder, you can just think about the architecture. It's a very simple autoencoder architecture. The first layer is the encoding layer, the second layer is the coding layer, and the third layer is the decoding layer. Encoding layer is the input layer of the neural network, and coding layer is the hidden layer, and the output layer, that is the decoding layer. Now the scientist or the team of researchers who invented the autoencoder for solving some real world problem, they had decided the middle, the hidden layer, the code layer as the bottleneck of the neural network. Why bottleneck? Because it imposes some bottleneck on the operation of the neural network. How? Because it actually considers two criteria. By balancing these two criteria, it operates on the input data. What are the two criteria? Number one is it maintains some relevant information from the input data. It basically retains some important features of the input data. That is first criteria. And the second criteria is it is actually capable of not maintaining over compressibility. I mean to say that it maintains some compactness of the features. Based on these two criteria, one is the compactness of the features, and the second one that I just mentioned is the retainability of the information, relevant information, retainability of the relevant features of the input data. These two criteria is actually considered when autoencoder works on the input data. So bottleneck is actually these two criteria, balancing these two criteria. So now you can think about how you can answer this question in a proper manner to an interviewer. So you can say like this, I am just follow my answer, you can just take as a reference. Okay, that's a great question. Bottleneck is actually represented by the middle layer of the autoencoder. It actually imposes some bottleneck on the operation of autoencoder, and it maintains two criteria. Number one is the retainability of the data, and number two is the compressibility or compactness of the data. By balancing these two criteria, the autoencoder neural network operates. Okay, let's move to the second question. Question number 4, that is how dimensionality reduction in autoencoder is different from PCA. So what is PCA? Principal component analysis. What is the main function of principal component analysis? It is the dimensionality reduction algorithm. Now the question is how dimensionality reduction in AE is different from PCA. We have to understand the difference of working of PCA in the context of autoencoder. Now just think about, in my last video I had discussed how the middle layer, the hidden layer reduces the dimension of the input data. But you have to think about why it is different from PCA. PCA is an unsupervised machine learning algorithm, and also autoencoder also works on the unsupervised machine learning algorithm. But there must be some differences. That's why this question came, right? So how to answer this question in a proper manner? You can say like this, only 3 points. You can just mention 3 points. If you mention these 3 points, your interviewer will get convinced. So first point is neural network, basically autoencoder is an unsupervised machine learning algorithm. So first point you can mention like it uses nonlinear activation function for understanding the relevant features, and using the nonlinear activation function, it actually understands the nonlinear transformations. It learns some nonlinear transformations. But in PCA it is not the case. PCA doesn't work based on some activation function. Okay, that is first point, first difference. Now the coming to the second difference, you can say like that. So PCA is not dependent on the size of the layer. Okay, it is actually applicable for learning some huge transformation. Okay, in neural network, transformation means the layer actually represent different kind of functions or transformations or the operations, right? But in autoencoder, it actually tries to learn some lower, some shorter or some smaller transformations. This is second difference. And the final difference that you can mention, that PCA is more linear but autoencoder is more non-linear. So definitely autoencoder will win if we just think about those problems where dimensionality reduction is not a big deal. Yeah, but if you want to only solve the dimensionality reduction problem, then definitely you should go for PCA. But if you are concerned not only about dimensionality reduction but also about some more things, like I also mentioned some real world use cases like image coloring or image denoising, or in my last video I mentioned some other real world use cases of autoencoder. So there actually we are not only solving the problem of dimensionality reduction, we are solving some big problem. There definitely autoencoder is your best choice. Okay, that is the answer of this question. Now coming to the last question, is there any variation of autoencoder? Definitely there are different kind of autoencoders, but in an interview you should not mention more than 3 or 4. Okay, so I am mentioning 3 autoencoder that you can mention in your interview if interviewer asks what are the different kind of autoencoder. So number 1 is deep autoencoder. Number 2 is sparse autoencoder. Number 3 is variational autoencoder. Okay, so these 3 you can mention as the variations of autoencoder. Now what if you ask me what does this means, how this network, I have a plan to create a new video on these 3 videos. If you really like my teaching, just let me know in a comments. And if you also want to know more about the variations of autoencoder, definitely I have a plan to create a new videos on these 3 kind of autoencoder. But just to create some interest, I am just giving you one structure of deep autoencoder so that you can understand the variation of autoencoder to some extent. So deep autoencoder, in the terminology you can understand that there must be some depth in the neural network. So how you understand the depth of neural network? Can you think about how you can understand the depth of neural network? It's a very simple, right? If you just consider these the layers, this is one subnetwork. See here, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4, layer 5, layer 6. So just if you go inside, you will find the number of layers is increasing. So in my first video, I just showed you 3 layers, right? Only 3 layers. But if you consider, just think about this first layer as combination of these 6 layers. Then this middle layer as combination of 3 layers. And then again this output layer. This is the output layer, this is the input layer, this is the hidden layer. Now instead of this input layer, I am placing these 6 layers. Instead of this one hidden layer, I am placing 3 similar kind of layer. Okay, and instead of this output layer, I am placing another 6 layers. That is the deep autoencoder. That's all about this class. I discussed in short the interview questions I think these are the main questions or the major questions of autoencoder mostly asked in the data science interview questions. If somebody faces questions in the autoencoder section, this 10 or 7 or 10 questions I had already discussed. If you just thoroughly revise these questions by referring my video, definitely you can convince your interviewer. And if you are really feel interest to know more about the variations of autoencoder, just let me know in the comments. I have a plan to create a new videos. Thank you. And if you have some queries, let me know in the comments. If you like the content of the content of the video, just like, share and subscribe in the channel. Thank you.